We are live, if I'm not mistaken, for the Mike and Mario show, and excited to be back once again and doing something somewhat different, streaming live on the Manico64 channel as well as Rethinking the Dollar. So definitely get a chance to collaborate and connect and see what some thoughts and opinions are from both sides of the pond are. But before we dive in further, got a lot of interesting topics. Mario, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Mike. It's a beautiful day here in London. Summer has finally arrived, and Rudy, my wife, and I went to the park, and he had a nice swim in the lake. So, and how are you?
I'm doing good, my friend. Doing good. Got up and hit the gym, pumped some iron, and feeling a little bit rejuvenated. And my day is yet to really begin. So looking forward to getting out in the sun and having some fun and taking care of some business as well. But before we do that, lots of things on the surface worth talking about. And so I want to preface all this with the fact that, as we were talking beforehand, a lot of the charts, information, stories is coming out, things that are very juicy in nature. Take it with a grain of salt, just because most of the information that we're gathering is usually comes from the mainstream media in some capacity. And that's where it's like, I'm kind of skeptical. So I'll say all that by leading you to the fact that basically do your own research, make sure you're well-informed and engaged before you take all this information in as factual, just because I'm getting more cautious these days. But for those who are tuned in, definitely hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel. And we're going to get to the Q&A side, and we'll try to open up the phone lines and see if you guys want to call in and share a quick thought or idea before we bring this to a conclusion. But let's get to the chart of the day.
Yeah.
So here we have the chart of the day here. So you shared this with me. You actually quoted and share some thoughts on this. I'll let you shine your light on it, and I'll also piggyback on it. But here we got the U.S. debt at this current moment at right above 32, about 32-ish trillion. And they're saying that the forecast could be 55 trillion. But, share your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this on Twitter just about half an hour ago, and I sent it to you. I mean, the first thing you think when you look at that is, will it be able to get there by 2033 at 55 trillion? And this is, of course, a forecast by the Congressional Budget Office. And they usually take the data from Congress and how much they're going to spend and tax. But there's usually some crises that pop up that disrupt everything. I remember when George Bush Jr. took over in 2001, there were projections that the national debt, not the deficit, the national debt would be paid off by 2008. And we know that never happened because of 9/11 and then all the wars and then 2008 crisis. So, my question is, will we ever be able to get there? I don't think so. I think something's going to happen, and that mountain of national debt is going to collapse. And that's just the national debt. It's not the unfunded liabilities. It's not the corporate and personal debt, which I think in the U.S., if you add everything up, it's more like 250 trillion. I think.
And counting. Yeah, and I think it's interesting because if we're able to view this clock, or not, I'm sorry, I'm actually looking for bringing up the clock now. But if we're able to view these astronomical numbers here, so is the rest of the world. And that's why I'm assuming they're speeding up their attempts to try to add alternatives and diversify and everything in between. What'd you say?
So sorry about that. Maybe you could try the time clock there. Go forward on the top right-hand side.
Yeah.
Try 2027. Let's see where they're seeing.
2027. Let me see here. It has us at 42 trillion and counting.
Yeah. So,
and unfunded liabilities, 247 trillion and counting. The numbers just don't stop, it seems. So, yeah. So long story short, between now and beyond possibly this year, we're going to see some changes to the monetary paradigm. And of course, it will not be favorable for the USD as well as the euro and everything in between. So perhaps might be more competition put out there. But I thought that was interesting to bring to your attention as a chart of the day. But let's jump into a couple other stories here. So I wanted to we can actually just jump on the the Wells Fargo situation before we get into the Russian alleged. I got to preface everything with the word alleged. So here's an alleged screenshot from someone who I guess wanted to share this, and it's kind of gone viral since. But apparently Wells Fargo has been experiencing, as it says here, emergency conditions, and they limit withdrawals to up $1,000. And so I saw another article that talked about you still can have access to, you still have access to normal banking and whatnot. It's just more so when you go right in for withdrawals, it's $1,000. So I'm not sure what that is, but the cards and everything else still works as normal. So my point is this, I don't know how credible this is, but it's definitely worth paying attention to just because it shows the overall condition of the banking sector where there's a lot of concern and caution amongst depositors, especially after all the March unraveling of SVB and everybody else and the continual contagion that I'm sure we're not hearing about at this current moment. But once again, it's one of those things where if you don't hold it, do you really own it? And of course, if it's in their possession, it belongs to them and you are a creditor to them. So just be aware of that because any moment, anything can change. What are you thinking about this?
Well, if it is credible that a lot of the Wells Fargo branches are only paying out $1,000 in cash, I think it's very serious because it shows that the banks are in trouble. That they're because your cash is their liability, and in order to cover their liability, they have to sell assets. And we know that bank assets have gone down the tubes in the last 18 months because the Fed raised rates so quickly. The Fed had to intervene in March, and they opened that BTFP, Bank Term Funding Program, and that's reaching already 100 billion. So this shows me that the banks are in trouble, that their assets are worth a lot less than their liabilities, and that's why they're limiting the amount of cash. Again, I'm saying this, if this is really like all over the Wells Fargo branches, if that's true, then I would be worried. And coupled with what's happening in the crypto, how can I say, crypto world, where they're going after the exchanges, it makes you wonder that, a lot of people might be taking their money out of the USD into Bitcoin or whatever.
Right, 100%. So also I see a super chat, so I'll acknowledge that. So it looks like, Mario, I am able to see from your side as well. But here's an interesting comment here. It says, difficult if you need to pay a bill over $1,000. And I believe that all your automatic deductions and things of that nature are still, and done. It's just, going to get cash. Huh?
If you do it online,
you
still fine. I think what this means is you can't take the physical.
The paper.
You can only take up to $1,000 physical, which isn't that much. It's only about 800 pounds.
Right. So if you're swiping your card to pay a bill, you're good to go. It's just, and so to me also, this leads to the idea of them wanting to make sure they are able to control your transactions directly. And so this could be another situation where the limiting of cash forces people and incentivizes them to use their card, which is a tool, which is a mechanism that they control and run solely, and it conditions people over time to accept the fact that, hey, what's the point in carrying cash when I can just swipe my card? They'll say it's just the same. It's the same thing. So it still spins. So, but that's how they get people and condition them over time. So, but make of it what you may. It's just something we want to bring to your attention because everybody in this audience here, they know what's at stake and what we're up against here, and they know the importance of having something real and tangible in your possession. So I was going to clink some coins, but I don't want to feel like doing all that. But anyway, let's get to another story that I think is of importance as well, just because I'm not sure if it's not trending as of yet, but it's worth bringing to your attention because there's a couple screenshots here worth mentioning. But it says pro-Ukraine hackers bring Russian bank system to its knees, coming from Reuters or this what is this website here, this First Post, filtered through Microsoft Start. So it's like I don't know here, but this is basically piggybacking on a tweet that was from a Igor Sushko. And so find out more about this guy here. He's born in Ukraine, American. And so he has 155,000 followers. So take the information that comes from him with a grain of salt. But these are some of the tweets he shared. And this picture here is just funny in of itself. But It says the entire banking system is at standstill nationwide because the ISP used for banking communication with the Russian central bank is down. Infotel, the ISP, is suspected to have been hacked by a pro-Ukraine group. And so here's another screenshot here showing the lack of activity after, let me see, like about 11 or so, 10 a.m.-ish. And so screenshot he shared, and it says here at 9 a.m., and then another one here says that Cyber Anarchy Squad appears to have taken credit. The group posted Infotel's full internet internal client list of 100 out of 400 banks. The rest are credit institutions, car dealers, and whatever. So seems kind of big if this is valid.
Again, I would take it with a big pinch of salt. I just searched this story, and I saw nothing from Russia, like Russian news. I saw there's a Pravda Ukraine, and it was there. And this guy being originally Ukrainian, it could be just a bit of, there's an old saying that the first victim of war is the truth. So,
so it's interesting to say at least, just because at this current moment, who knows? But I would assume that there will be if this is real, there'll be a response.
I mean, there will be people like I don't know if he's still on YouTube. Earl Grey. He's English, based in Russia. If this is really happening, he'd probably be updating that. I don't know, but what do you think this means? You said that you think it could lead to something in the West.
Right. So if this is real and it was a hack job done by a pro-Ukrainian, to me, pro-Ukrainian spells Western puppet entities. So I doubt Ukraine has the intel to be able to pull something like this off if it's real. So definitely it's coming from the Western foes. And of course, this plays right in line with this upcoming summer of all types of events we're hearing over here, from a cyber event to power outages to all types of things. If this is real, and it is a legitimate attack upon a Russian bank, they can look at this and take it as like an attack from exterior forces. And therefore, the West End could jump on this and says that we have been hacked by Russia. Russia has done this because in retaliation to. So it's one of them things where we do this, we'll see how they respond. And so it's like poking the bear. You can only poke the bear so much before it just comes out and unleashes on you. And then the West can say, aha, we got you. And now this plays into our narrative of, the grid is down, or something of that magnitude, and it just helps the globalists do their continual agenda. But let me acknowledge this girl Ogie, if I'm not saying this incorrectly. Yeah, says, if you guys remember, I bought the house. I still have all my gold and silver.
That's good. I'm talking about girl Ogie is in Norway. Someone, one of my viewers, asked me a few weeks ago about the Norwegian krona, why it was so weak, and I had to look at it. And my view at the time was that Norway is heavily dependent on oil and gas. And oil and gas, we're supposed to wean off that in the West. And that won't be helpful for the Norwegian economy, because I think 70% of their exports are oil and gas. And if we go net zero and focus on electricity and alternative forms of energy, that will be really bad for Norway. So I think that's why the market is, predicting like a weaker krona. But then I saw today that Norway has got a new program that they're going to start mining for battery metals under the oceans in Norway. And an area as big as Germany. So I think that's why they've done it, from if they don't try to, if Norway doesn't try to diversify oil and gas, they're going to be in trouble.
Right. I think that's the same thing with the Middle East. They're trying to diversify as well, especially Saudi. So they're talking about trying to basically get away from oil as well, because I've heard over last couple of years that their oil reserves is not as strong as they pretend. And so they need to begin doing some different things. So we will see. Let's get to some more stories then, since we're at it.
There's been some comments. I haven't looked at it. I think my wife has listened to a little bit of it about this whistleblower about aliens. Some people have you heard of it? I don't know what's going on. I saw
some headlines, but I've stayed away from it just because I have a my viewpoint on whole extraterrestrial UFO stuff, as we talked about this months ago. At this current moment, they're gonna throw everything at us, and so it's gonna be another topic to distract us. And I'm not concerned with aliens rather than the spiritual concerns that, you know, the demonic forces, principalities, and powers are trying to push upon humanity. So I'll let them worry about the aliens. I'll focus on the spiritual stuff. But
my comment said maybe the aliens are in Wells Fargo.
But, yeah.
I think someone asked me the same question through my Patreon, and I replied, the only positive about an alien invasion or an alien threat would be that the whole world would have to get together, and we wouldn't have the enemies we have anymore, like Russia and China. We would get together, but the disadvantage, of course, is that they could justify a one world government, because they could say, oh, we need to gang up together to fight this threat. But this guy apparently was a former Pentagon official or whatever, and can you trust really people from those that neck of the woods?
Not one bit. And that's why it's one of the things where I question it. I question the timing of everything. Like, as I mentioned, they're throwing everything at us. And so out of every story that's been thrown our way over the last, 6 months that we've been in 2023, the primary focal point for everybody that's involved in these communities here is the monetary system. Like, you know, importance of gold and silver, which they don't want none of that to really take the headlines and become a primary topic and focal point. At the same time, the banks are having issues. And of course, the current crypto crackdown with the Binance and Coinbase is something that a lot of people are concerned with over here. And then also, you shared an article about the mortgages. Let me grab that one. In the withdrawing. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me grab it here. Do I got it? Let me see. I didn't grab it. Anyway, but I'll go grab it in a second.
I think what you said is right. They're trying to throw us a lot of distractions outside the financial system, because the financial system is actually in trouble. You sent me a chart as well, I think, of the net QE of the the Fed's supposed to be doing quantitative tightening, but they're actually doing QE, and that's why the stock market has been so strong, because they can't afford to do QT. And especially after the funnily named Fiscal Responsibility Act, things are going to get even more difficult for the bond markets, because the U.S. government is just going to have to borrow trillions and trillions. I mean, we showed that chart at the beginning. We're going to go to 55, 60. It could be 80 trillion in 10 years. Who knows? This could be, that's the whole problem. That's the biggest threat to prosperity and the health of the United States and the Western world and the whole world, because
humanity in general.
The whole world is still heavily dependent on the dollar. It's still 60% of world foreign exchange reserves, and even countries that have been loading up on gold for the last 18 months, they're going to suffer too.
But I agree.
They're not going to suffer as much as those countries who have neglected getting some weight.
Now let me just for those who may not be able to read this, it says Fed QT inception to date, the quote plan was 750 billion of quantitative tightening. It says the quote end result is 100 billion of QE instead. And so just the beginning. And then I saw an article saying that within the first 24 hours of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, there was 300 or something billion added or something. It was a much larger number that just basically showed that they're not too responsible whatsoever, because responsibility basically means continual expansion through debt. So it's like, okay, at this current moment, that is just more of the same. And speaking of which, let me share something else. And I have all my topics here. I'm kind of backwards all the way around here. But
I got a good comment here on my chat. It says, save fiat to sell as wallpaper in a few years.
Let me see. I'm able to see them. Let me see. What I'll do is we'll get a couple more articles here, and then we'll go to Q&A, and I'll have them highlight. Just put at question first, so it'll stand out, so I can see it and put it on the screen here. But here's another interesting. Well, not interesting, but it just goes to show where we're currently at now. So it looks like Argentina will officially add a new note in the 2000 bill peso. And I was watching this little short video clip here, and it just shows people basically walking around with bags of cash. Like it gets to the point now where you can't, you buy a cup of coffee without having to pull out bags of cash. And it showed a guy walking through the street with just large wads of cash. Right here.
I've seen that little video. Yeah. I think what's going to happen soon is that they're going to do a reset where they'll lop off 3 zeros of off the notes. So a 2,000 peso note will become a 2 peso note. So the people who lose out are people who save in that currency, who leave it in the bank. So I guess we're not there yet here in the West, but who knows? I mean, things are crazy.
Right.
But I think Argentina, they somehow they get along because they've been used to it for so many decades. It's
right. And that's a primary example of everybody, or not everybody, but the primary person that I can keep in contact with down there regularly. All his life savings is either in real estate, because his family is fairly wealthy. They bought several properties throughout the city they live in, and then they keep dollars. And so they don't really concern themselves because they get paid in pesos, convert to dollars, and then they only use pesos for the bare minimum for groceries and bills and stuff like that. So, but I'm thinking, what about the point when the dollar? What happens when the dollar becomes a problem?
The only thing that will help you are gold and silver. I think some people think it might be Bitcoin as well. They could be right, but that's what's going to happen. And can you imagine in Argentina and all those countries that are dependent on the dollar? They're going to be in trouble too. But I'm sure there are Argentinians who are probably hopefully buying some gold and silver too.
Right. All right, let's get to let's just touch on. You're interested in touching on the political charades here. So this article here.
I saw that Trump could get 100 years.
Yeah. Donald Trump facing 100 years in prison after being served 7 more criminal charges. And I'm thinking, like, what? Once again, what about the timing of this? How convenient is this? Another thing thrown our way. And I've seen several videos of people responding like in outrage, like, this is ridiculous. Last couple weeks ago, Biden was confirmed to be receiving bribes. Everybody in his family got paid and nothing. The GOP did nothing. I'm like, come on now. Like, they're drawing out people's emotions and getting people drawn into this web of confusion. It's like, it's a game to them, but it's our lives, unfortunately. So I can see how people have a vested interest in this. But once again, like, it doesn't really, it won't impact our lives in the long run because things will continue to take their course. And then here's another little, let me grab this one. And here's another political charades is DeSantis campaign using AI generated images of Trump hugging and kissing Fauci. And I'm thinking, like, this is another guy who is running against Trump. He's his so-called competitor. But what about the people who on the other end of this? Like, we're the ones that need people that's supposed to be representing us, not fighting amongst themselves, but people are fighting against the forces that are trying to suppress and oppress us continuously. But these guys up here making this politics of charade game. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I think these stories are just a symptom of the collapse of the currency, a symptom of the inflation, and it permeates through politics, through society, like the woke culture. It permeates through finance. It permeates through the morals of society. And we've seen it happen many times before in the history of the world. Last time in the Western world, it was Germany, Weimar Germany, and Central Europe after World War I, and with the Weimar hyperinflation, there was loads of political conflict. I mean, Germany, I think the Kaiser abdicated at the end of the war, and then it became a republic, and you had like places like Bavaria trying to break away from the German the Weimar Republic, political assassinations, and you had inflation. I mean, that's all it is, and it's not going to end well. And I think this also is going to make a lot of people divide people even more, and that's not good for a country to function when there's so much division. Right. But again, I think the powers that be know that they're in trouble, so they want to keep the limelight away from them and keep people at each other's necks. They don't want people. That's why they probably don't like RFK Jr., because he seems to want to unite both sides. He's got support both on the far left and the far right. They hate that. So that's why they have to make sure he doesn't go that far. So that's what I think it is.
Yeah. And I think with this Trump situation in particular, like if they keep him, if they draw this out, keep him tied up in court battles or whatever, it's going to mess with his presidential campaigning and stuff like that. And of course, that plays into their agenda of trying to distract us even more. And so it'll probably allow DeSantis to steal some of his shine. And of course, I have my suspicions about DeSantis and his origins and things of that nature. So it's like, we'll find out, but just expect more distractions and diversion tactics. Let's get into some geopolitical news real quick, and then we'll take some questions. You sent me this article here about the U.S. spreading their tentacles even further, linking up with Taiwan and Japan drone fleets to share real-time data. Real-time data for what? What are they practicing? What are they working towards?
When I haven't really read, to be honest, the article, but I saw this headline a couple of days ago, and I thought to myself, well, there you go. They're provoking China, because this is just the Chinese. I'm sure they've seen this, and they're saying, "Whoa, there you go." And that's what it's all about. And it's something to do with empires when they're challenged. I think it was an American guy who called it Thucydides trap, and it's a theory that when empires have been, when they're falling in power, they have a lot of debt, like the U.S., and they have a challenger like China. There usually is a war because the empire of the day doesn't want to give up that power. So I think that's what is happening vis-a-vis China. I hope I'm wrong, but I see a lot of even people that I used to admire and listen to years ago who are becoming very anti-Chinese and who want like blood. I mean, I think I sent you something from Kyle Bass.
Yeah. Let me grab that real quick. I have it up
a rabid anti-Chinese. I'm not defending the Chinese, but I personally think it's better to cooperate and trade and try to be peaceful than maybe competition is a good thing. It seems like America just wants to stay number one through using force, and I don't think that's a good thing. And I think the rest of the world is getting tired of that.
Yeah,
there you go, Kyle Bass. Well, apparently it's because now the Chinese are going to set up some kind of office in Cuba.
Correct.
That
was the next thing I was going to talk about.
The thing is, like Kyle Bass was outraged with this, but the thing, America is all over the world. So
the fact that China is deciding to come towards this side is like, oh, not like, so we'll see
how dare they. But that's all part of Thucydides trap when the emperor, he becomes outraged when a challenger dares to come near his backyard, so to speak.
Yeah. And so this here, for those who may not be familiar, says an eavesdropping facility in Cuba, roughly 100 miles from Florida, would allow Chinese intelligence services to scoop up electronic communications throughout the southeastern U.S., where many military bases are located, and monitor U.S. Ship traffic. And so officials familiar with the matter said that China has agreed to pay cash-strapped Cuba several $billions to allow it to build the eavesdropping station there. So yeah, we'll find out.
The other thing I would say is coming from the Wall Street Journal. So
correct. Another one of the things.
I don't know
Okay.
if you remember The Big Short. Those young guys who were the options traders, and they went to their friend at the Wall Street Journal to try to like say, look, these rating agencies are lying and stuff about this. And he said, no, I can't write about that because I'd lose my job. So you have to take that with a big pinch of salt about the Wall Street Journal, what they're writing, because I think the Chinese probably already spy on the U.S. I think they got a presence in Panama, in the Panama Canal, and they've got, don't they own part of L.A., the port of Long Beach?
They own a good chunk of manufacturing resources and hubs here in our country. So, and of course, remember they had the balloons that was floating around the country. So they did an intel. So yeah, I'd imagine it's a lot easier ways to get, because it's satellites, saying they're supposed to be out in space looking down at us. Okay. What else? Let's want to get some Q&A questions then.
Sure.
All right, so let's put it out there. So for those who are tuning in, and so I can't see pretty much everything question wise. So highlight question or just put question then or put question or comment or something like that.
Just make a comment with a question mark, and
we'll so it'll stand out, and we can get that going. And then also for the sake of shaking things up a little bit, I figure I wouldn't mind taking a couple calls as well. So if you guys want to call in and share a thought or comment or question, feel free to do that. So I'll actually put that information
for people to hit the like button both on Mike's channel and my channel.
Yeah, definitely. So I got a couple little things here. Support the channel, hit the thumbs up button. And so feel free to put question mark in the chat and I'll put it on the screen. Or if you got a thought or a comment, short and simple, feel free to give me a call and I'll try to get you guys on the air and make it a real talk show type of format. So we'll go a couple minutes and then dial off and get ready to have a good relaxing weekend for the most part, because next week will be more drama as well. Question, here's one from Unfinancial Preparedness, UK Financial Preparedness. It says, have you seen that JBS are looking to build a lab-grown meat factory in Spain? They are big partners of the World Economic Forum. I covered it earlier on my channel. UK, I have not. That's just one of many different topics that is designed to get our attention. I haven't at all, and I know that I think Beyond Meat, that company is not doing too well. So some of those companies are getting a lot of pushback. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah. And we went to the park today with Rudy, my wife and I, and there's another dog, and he was playing with the dog, and the owner was Romanian, and he said that King Charles likes to go to Romania because a lot of the produce and the food and the wine there is all organic. So yeah, the powers that be, they love the organic stuff that's good for you, but for us, they're pushing this stuff.
And I'd imagine they're private, under their ownership, they probably own a lot of organic type farms and stuff like that for their own sake. And they, of course, they try to feed us all types of stuff. But Nick's fan says, you tired of U.S. hegemony, but what's the alternative?
Well, you go first.
I was going to say alternative. One of the alternatives is self-sufficiency, less dependency on the system itself, knowing that what they're doing is designed to hinder and to hold you back, rather than taking control of things is according to what you can do for yourself, being less dependent upon the system, not being in debt, trying to have assets that produce for you rather than you being dependent upon the system. And those type of steps will lead to more of a financial sovereignty type of role. But
I guess you're talking about the individual on an individual basis, but
correct.
This question is more on the national basis or country basis. I think the alternative is that nations respect each other and cooperate. Why should we have anyone in charge? And I don't really think China wants to rule the world. Yes, they're strong and they have a big population and they'll be strong economically. I think that's the alternative. I'm not saying why do we need a hegemon? Why can't we just live in peace? And it won't be a utopia, but anyway, there's a question here from 420 Cafe.
Yeah.
with silver premiums at 20%, it doesn't seem worthwhile to buy silver anymore. I've switched to gold. Much lower premiums to overcome. Thoughts? Yeah, I do have thoughts on silver premiums. I mean, here in the UK, we don't only have the premiums, but we have the VAT. And the first time I bought silver back in 2003, I thought, wow, this is a bit of a ripoff. But at the time, silver was £3.50 an ounce, and I had to pay 4. And now it's like 20, and I know it hasn't gone up as much as it should. So all I'm saying is I think you should not worry about the premium or the VAT, because eventually you will kick yourself. You'll be kicking yourself for not having silver. But I keep trying to buy both if I can.
Well, then real quick, Mario, you mentioned earlier about the gold to silver ratio. Wanted to touch on that real quick. And so before I see some more questions there, we'll get to those in a moment. I want to actually bring this up here let me see, because I wanted to hear your thought, because we didn't get a chance to finish it. But here you have the gold to silver ratio as of today in real time. And so you were saying that something about the premiums or something. You're talking about something in reference to this. What were you saying?
If you could put it on a day chart.
Let me see if I can. It won't. Other than 24 hour, this is the best I can get here.
Do a weekly one 1 week.
Okay.
Yeah, you see what I'm seeing here is that silver is starting to outperform a little bit, and I know this has happened quite a bit in the last 2.5 years. But when silver starts outperforming gold, that's a positive for both gold and silver. Mm-hmm. So that's encouraging. So
yeah. So I wanted to mention that just because the person was talking about premium. So this plays into that. So, all right, let's get to some more questions. What else we got here? You see anything out here? Let me see here. So far, I haven't. Let me see. No
Someone on the chat from Romania confirmed that what I said about the organic farms there, that it's true. So there you go.
Yeah. Now, but so just not just Debbie Downer, but I had assumed the sky, they're still spraying in the sky, quote unquote chemtrails, and that stuff lands. And so, like, unless it's enclosed, I still question how pure the organic things are, and of which I wish that wasn't the case. But I've just saw a video about the stuff that hits the ground and what it's doing. It's like it's.
Do they have that though in Romania? I mean,
that's the thing. I assume it's everywhere, but I don't know.
There's a question here from William PMCD. Hi guys, wonder if you can please comment on South Africa and their power grid.
So other than I know that they were having let me see, some issues there, and they were restricting and limiting power usage throughout the day. Let me see, I haven't checked in on it recently, but it doesn't surprise me at all that that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing about it a few years ago that their infrastructure is not in great shape. So I think they have a lot of problems in South Africa with. I don't know. I can't really talk too much because I don't know, but the corruption there and stuff.
Yeah, here's a headline here. It says South Africa power crisis will continue in 2025 and blackouts will take 5 years to phase out. So this is from the conversation. So this is 2 days ago. So lets us know that there's nothing really changing there other than just more issues there. So
maybe there's someone here from South Africa who could, confirm that, that the money is not going into, the right places, the infrastructure money.
Yeah. What else here? We got a question. Any thought? I saw, was that low blood pressure? Any thought on Turkey? The Turkish talk about the Turkish lira tanking.
Well, actually, I just saw that Erdogan picked a former
banker,
Goldman Sachs banker, to be the head of the central bank. She's a woman, first woman banker in Turkey. So it just goes to show that the bankers have their tentacles everywhere. So they.
Yeah, Erdogan's name's Erkin. To head Turkey's central bank policy pivot expected. So, and as a result of that, the announcement of a former banker, U.S. banker, the lira just completely fell even further down, but it says Erkin, a former CEO of First Republic Bank and managing director at Goldman Sachs, takes the reins as Erdogan's re-election.
He also worked for First Republic, which collapsed, didn't it?
Right.
Or was First Republic taken over, or I'm not sure, by JP
I think it was taken over, and they somehow shuffled the book some way to limit the losses of the bankers.
She left though in 2021, but
it says, what do you guys think of UBI trial this week in England? 2 area generals. I think it was £1,600, isn't it? I saw something about that. Yeah, there's a trial going on here in Michigan as well, in Ann Arbor, for $580 a month or something like that. So we're gonna see a lot more of these things pop up. But once again, it's their solution for their problem they created.
The thing is, UBI, Universal Basic Income. I think there are a lot of people who are already on UBI, and they have been for years with the welfare state. So this is just probably streamlining it. But what do I think of it? Well, it doesn't incentivize people. It makes people more dependent and unhappy. But
and that's the average person don't even know that it's going to compound their problems. Like, literally, like, because they're conditioned with the numeral value of currency, where $2,000, okay, that's 2,000, either 2,000 extra, or it's 2,000 that means I don't have to do this or do that. But then again, it's going to show up in the grocery prices at some point in the near future.
And philosophically as well, it's like when you're growing up, of course, your parents look after you, but when you get older, you want to go on your own and make a go of it yourself. And this is like stopping that. It's saying, the state will look after you, and you don't have to worry about anything. I just think it's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, and that's where we at, and it's just early summer, so I'm sure we'll hear more about UBI as time goes on. But we're about that 40-minute mark, so you get ready to dial back a little bit. And I guess what's we got the FOMC next week. What do you anticipate? That quarter point? Because I think Canada backtracked a quarter point, Australia quarter point, so everybody still continue to hike a little bit.
It looks like it, yeah. It looks like it, and it's on the 14th, I think. So, is it Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday the 14th. It starts on Tuesday, but the thing is, I personally think these central banks are still way behind the inflationary curve. And I know M2 has dropped a lot, but there's still a lot of expectation. All the same people who thought it was going to be transitory, they think it's going to top and it's going to go back down to 1 or 2%, and everything's going to be fine. And I don't believe it. But yeah, in the short term, the Fed's decision and the press conference will impact the markets, but it's all noise, in my opinion. Just keep an eye on that debt, that $55 trillion dollar tsunami that's coming our way.
Yeah. To refer to this chart right here that we started off with. So so I think all eyes are on the BRICS. It's not just more mainstream news coming out talking about the BRICS and BRICS currency. I didn't even hear talk about gold back. So we'll see. But the rest of the summer is going to be focused on the possible introduction of alternative to the USD or some type of payment railway that'll lessen the stranglehold of the SWIFT system. So we'll see. But it's going to be an interesting summer to say the least. But banks are in trouble, so they got to scramble. What else? Other than that, that's pretty much it, man. I hope everyone had a great chance to hang out with us, and definitely hit that thumbs up button. Show your support for both Manico64 and RTD. And then also this weekend, get out, enjoy yourself, get some sunlight, have fun, and try to unplug from the craziness. Thank God for all the blessings you have, because if you're tuned in, then obviously you're still blessed beyond measure. So it's so much to be grateful for. So don't forget that. So other than that, Mario, back at it next week, same time, same place.
Yeah.
All right. Be blessed, be safe, people. See you guys later. Peace.